Hi everybody, I'm going to read chapter 17 and 18 of James and the Giant Peach for you today. In the last three chapters, the peach started rolling down the hill, and can you remember it went off the side of the cliff and it went down into the sea? And at the end of the chapter, it was just bobbing up and down, floating, wasn't it? So, chapter 17. At this moment, the scene inside the peach itself was chaos. James Henry Trotter was lying bruised and battered on the floor of the room amongst a tangled mass of centipede and earthworm and spider and ladybird and glowworm and old green grasshopper. In the history of the world, no travellers had ever had a more terrible journey than these unfortunate creatures. It had started out well, with much laughing and shouting, and for the first few seconds, as the peach had begun to roll slowly forward, nobody had minded being tumbled about a little bit. And when it went bump, and the centipede had shouted, "That was Aunt Sponge!" and then bump again, "And that was Aunt Spiker!" there had been a tremendous burst of cheering all round. But as soon as the peach rolled out of the garden and began to go down the steep hill, rushing and plunging and bounding madly downward, then the whole thing became a nightmare. James found himself being flung up against the ceiling, then back on the floor, then sideways against the wall, then up to the ceiling again, and up and down and back and forth and round, and at the same time all the other creatures were flying through the air in every direction, and so were the chairs and the sofa, not to mention the 42 boots belonging to the centipede. Everything and all of them were being rattled about like peas inside an enormous rattle that was being rattled by a mad giant who refused to stop. To make it worse, something went wrong with the glowworm's lighting system, and the room was in darkness. There were screams and yells and curses and cries of pain, and everything kept going round and round. And once James made a frantic grab at some thick bars sticking out from the wall, only to find that they were the centipede's legs. "Let go, you idiot!" shouted the centipede, kicking himself free. And James was promptly flung across the room into the old green grasshopper's lap. Twice he got tangled up in Miss Spider's legs, and towards the end the poor earthworm, who was cracking himself like a whip every time he through the air from one side of the room to the other, coiled himself around James's body in a panic and refused to unwind. Oh no, it was a terrible trip. There they all are in a heap. But it was all over now, and the room was suddenly very still and very quiet. Everybody was beginning slowly and painfully to stop tangling themselves up from everybody else. "Let's have some light," shouted the centipede. "Yes, light, give us some light." "I'm trying," answered the poor glowworm. "I'm doing my best, but you must be patient." They all waited in silence. Then a faint greenish light began to glimmer out of the glowworm's tail, and this gradually became stronger and stronger until we could see. "Some great journey," the centipede said, limping across the room. "I shall never be the same again," murmured the earthworm. "Nor I," the ladybird said. "It's taken years off my life." "But my dear friends, we are there," cried the old green grasshopper. "Where? Where is there?" "I don't know, but I bet it's somewhere good." "We are probably at the bottom of a coal mine," the earthworm said gloomily. "We certainly went down and down and down very suddenly at the last moment. I felt it in my stomach. I still feel it." "Perhaps we are in the middle of a beautiful country full of songs and music," the old green grasshopper said. "Or near the seashore," said James eagerly, "with lots of other children down on the sand for me to play with." "Pardon me," murmured the ladybird, "but am I wrong in thinking that we seem to be bobbing up and down?" Bobbing up and down? What on earth do you mean? They all cried. You're still giddy from the journey. You'll get over it in a minute. Is everybody ready to go upstairs and take a look around? Yes, yes, come on, let's go. I refuse to show myself out of the doors in my bare feet. I have to get my boots on first. Oh, for goodness sake, let's not go through all that nonsense again. Let's all lend the centipede a hand and get it over with. Come on. So they did, all except Miss Spider, who set about weaving a long rope ladder that would reach from the floor up to a hole in the ceiling. The old green grasshopper had wisely said that they must not risk going out of the side entrance when they didn't know where they were. But first of all, go up onto the top of the peach and take a look around. So half an hour later, when the rope ladder had been finished and hung, and the 40-second boot had been laced neatly onto the centipede's 42nd foot, they were all ready to go out. Amongst the excitement and shouts of "Here we go, boys! I can't wait to see it!" the whole company climbed up the ladder one by one and disappeared into a dark, soggy tunnel in the ceiling that went steeply, almost vertically, upwards. And that's the end of chapter 17.